Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're actually checking out the Competitive Brawl queue with this mono-green landfall deck featuring a new commander. Moloid Master is a 3-mana 1/1 that lets us replay lands from our graveyard, so the typical Crucible of Worlds effect. And then with landfall, it generates a 1/1 minion creature token named Moloid that says whenever it attacks we get to mill a card, which can also maybe mill more useful lands into the graveyard that the Mole Man can then replay. So then if we take a look at our deck breakdown, I've split it up into a few different categories, starting with the more traditional ramp cards, especially 1-mana accelerants, so we can play our 3-drops on turn 2 already, are very welcome here. And then we've got some of the other cards that can maybe make more than 1 mana going forward, like the Fanatic of Ronas, Lotus Cobra with landfall, same as Nissa, can also be incredibly effective since we're often getting back fetch lands over and over, which can then also generate more than 1 mana. And then the next important category are ways to play an additional land each turn. We already have our commander letting us replay lands out of the graveyard, so we don't need any additional Crucible effects, even though I Still Explorer does both. But then we're mostly interested in these exploration type effects, so we can play an additional land each turn, stack them as many as possible, so we get to replay the same land potentially over and over in the case of our various fetch lands. And of course, strip mine is legal in Competitive Brawl, so that's one of the main appeals for playing a strategy like this, is that you can potentially lock someone out of the game by strip mining them over and over. Then we get to our land tutor effects, and these can find whatever land we want, and we've got a very wide range of utility lands in this deck, all the way from Strip Mine to Field of the Dead is also legal in Competitive Brawl, so that can be its own win condition, just making an army of zombie tokens. We can also assemble Dark Depths plus Thespian's Stage to make a 2020 Merit Lage that's an indestructible flying token, so that can potentially get the game over with. And then of course we want to get fetch lands, maybe Cavern of Souls to make things uncounterable, and anything in between. And then we get to our creatures. We've got multiple landfall payoffs that will give us additional +1 counters. We've got some green creatures to make our spells uncounterable, since the blue archetypes are very popular in Competitive Brawl, so making our green spells uncounterable with Allosaurus Shepherd or potentially the Baloth can also be very useful. And then we've got some of our finishers that we can also maybe tutor up, like the Craterhoof Behemoth, that we can also natural order for, since that card's also legal in Competitive Brawl. And that card's in our next section, which is the miscellaneous non-creature spells, which include Natural Order, a couple other tutor effects like Court of Calling also plays well with all the tokens we can generate with the Mole Man. Hedge Shredder also has great synergy with our Mole tokens attacking and milling lands into the graveyard, trying out Horn of Greed to draw additional cards. Disruptor Flute and other similar effects are also legal in the format, so we can potentially shut down opposing commanders with it if they're planeswalkers. And then we've got some additional hate cards like Vexing Bauble to try and stop some of the free counter spells, and Veil of Summer is also main decked here because blue is so popular, so we can also potentially stop opposing counters with it. And then the mana section is quite important. We've got 6 of each forest and snow-covered forest to diversify the names for Field of the Dead, a ton of fetch lands, including the new Capenna fetch lands that make the land enter tapped but gain 1 life, just so we consistently have a fetch land in our opening hand, since they will make our Mole Man a lot more powerful. And then our remaining lands include a lot of the one-offs I've already mentioned, and then we can maybe go over some of them in detail a little bit later. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our mana accelerants. Chromox is legal in Competitive Brawl, so that can maybe set up our 2-drops on turn 1 already. And then the Grazer to put a land in place, fine. We've got Birds of Paradise, Delighted Halfling can also be important against the blue decks, Elvish Mystic and Eleanor Elves. Utopia Sprawl will need a forest to enchant, but with our many fetch lands that's usually not a problem. The Banjo Cup can also synergize with some of the aforementioned creatures. Fanatic of Aronas can potentially make 4 mana if we get a 4-powered creature in play. Lotus Cobra is excellent, same as Nissa, which can also find additional elves and elementals. The Earthbender Ascension can find an extra land, and with enough counters can also start giving us +1 counters on our creatures, as well as Trample. The Tireless Provisioner makes treasure and food with landfall, and then Titania can also maybe get a land back out of the graveyard. Very nice if we can get back a Strip Mine or a fetch land with her. And then makes additional 5/3 elemental tokens when those lands get sacrificed. Then we get to our extra land effects, where exploration is by far the most efficient, just a 1 mana enchantment. Druid class needs to be leveled up first, but also gains life with landfall. We've got Explore as a one-shot effect. Azusa will statically let us play 2 additional lands each turn, so this is one of the more powerful ones. And then a Dryad also fixes our colors. A Loot can also maybe be activated to find additional creatures. Swordtooth will turn into a 5/5 with a City's Blessing. The Case can let us play lands and creatures off the top of the deck. We've got the Oracle of Moldaya, can also play lands off the top. And then the I Still Explorer can also let us replay lands out of the graveyard in case Mole Man maybe gets shut down. And then our land tutor effects include Crop Rotation as the most efficient 1 mana instant that even puts the land in play untapped. Reclaimer needs to pay 2 mana, tap and sack a land to get one. There's Expedition Map, 1 to play, 2 to sacrifice. Sylvan Scrying is a bit more efficient, just 2 mana for a sorcery. And then Archdude's Charm can put the land straight onto the battlefield, including, of course, whatever non-basic land we want, which is why we're interested in these specific tutor effects as opposed to your typical ramp cards that can put a basic land into play. But the Charm also has some other useful modes, like blowing up artifacts or enchantments, or maybe dealing damage to opposing creatures. The Myco Spawn, even when countered, still lets us tutor up whatever land we want, and especially with Kicker, can also blow up an opposing land, and there's plenty of colorless sources in our mana base to enable it. And then Primeval Titan is legal in Competitive Brawl and regular Brawl as well, so that can also maybe assemble our Stage plus Dark Depths combo in one go. And Niliel's Intervention can either deal damage to flying creatures, but usually is going to be searching up whatever X lands we want. Then our creatures include Allosaurus Shepherd to make all our green spells uncounterable, whereas the Baloth only applies to creature spells. Then we also have the Chocobo as just a cheaper landfall creature to apply a bit of pressure with, alongside Scythecat Cub and Bristly Bill. And then there's also the Mossborn Hydra, which can also win a game by itself if we can play enough fetch lands out especially. Then we also have the Sylvan Safekeeper, can sacrifice lands to make our creatures gain Shroud until end of turn, so it can also be useful against some control decks, and also combos very nicely with Titania, as we can now maybe sacrifice all our lands, turning them all into 5/3 elemental tokens. We've got our Keen-Eyed Curator if we want some graveyard hate that we need to tutor up, so we can pay 1 mana to exile a card from a graveyard. Could also play Scavenging Ooze, but we do have some colorless lands in the mana base, so the Curator is a little easier to activate. Then we mentioned most of our landfall cards also have Scute Swarm, which does a similar job to the Mole Man, so can be a little bit superfluous, but helps us in going wide. 6 can also provide value if it gets to attack, milling additional cards into the graveyard, returning lands in the process, and can retrace our permanents out of the graveyard as well, so we can maybe buy back some of our more important creatures and other non-land permanents. We've got Endurance to give us some instant speed graveyard hate as well. The Eternal Witness can also get stuff back from our graveyard. And then Lumra can also be very nice if we have a full graveyard with a lot of lands we get to return at once. And then Craterhoof Behemoth, often something we want to search up to close out the game if we get to tutor for it. And then our non-creature miscellaneous section, as we mentioned, has Veil of Summer to make our spells uncounterable against blue decks. We've got the Vexing Bauble, also helpful against all those free interactive spells. Malevolent Rumble can keep filling the graveyard and give us some selection. Once Upon a Time is free to cast if it's our first spell. Sylvan Library is great with all the fetch lands, giving us a lot of manipulation over the top of our deck, and in some matchups we can even afford to pay some life to draw some extra cards. The Disruptor Flute is legal and competitive, so it can shut down opposing commanders if they're planeswalkers or creatures with certain activated abilities. And then the Beastmaster Ascension can be a powerful finisher. If we have 7 creatures in play, we get to attack with them all at once, giving the team +5/+5, but we can also maybe do it over the course of a few turns. Then the Horn of Greed is also worth a shot here. If we play a land, we get to draw a card, so especially powerful if we have some of those effects to play an additional land each turn. Hedge Shredder, great with Moloid tokens, milling additional lands into the graveyard, which we now get to put in play. And then Natural Order, often getting Craterhoof Behemoth or some of our other heavy hitters like Primeval Titan, can even sacrifice a 1/1 token to cast it. And then Green Sun's Zenith, Nature's Rhythm, and Court of Calling can also search up specific creatures depending on the matchup and depending on which silver bullet we need. Nature's Rhythm also having Harmonize is pretty useful in a deck that's already going to be milling itself quite a bit with those Moloid tokens. And then the mana base, 6 of each basic, as I mentioned, to diversify for Field of the Dead. Then all of these new Capenna fetch lands. Got the classic green fetch lands costing 1 life, as well as Fabled Passage, which can be one of the better ones once we have enough lands in play, as it doesn't cost us any life. And then our utility lands is a pretty long list here. Ba Sing Se to Earthbend, Boseiju to blow up artifacts and enchantments. Castle Garenbreak is great for casting some of our heavy hitters like Primeval Titan ahead of schedule. The Shifting Woodland also has good synergy with all the self-mill that's happening. Ancient Tomb is illegal in competitive, so we're going to make use of it. The Archway can maybe pick up an extra land, and Bounce lands are good in decks that have a lot of these exploration effects to play an additional land each turn. Blast Zone can give us some interaction for opposing permanents. Cavern of Souls to make our spells uncounterable. Then there's Dark Depths plus our Thespian's Stage to try and make Merit Lage to hopefully end the game. So Thespian Stage copies Dark Depths, keep the one without any counters on it, gets sacrificed to make a 20/20. Then we've got Dust Bowl as kind of a backup copy of Strip Mine in case that maybe gets exiled somehow. Then Field of the Dead, also very important as an extra win condition to make 2/2 zombie tokens, also normally banned in Brawl. The Gemstone Caverns can give us a mana boost if we're on the draw. There's a Ghost Corridor, which can also be used to blow up opposing lands and hopefully run the opponent out of basics eventually. There's the Library of Alexandria, which can maybe draw some extra cards. Lotus Field can also maybe sacrifice some lands to set up our graveyard for the Mole Man. We've got, of course, Strip Mine. This is the reason to play this deck. Thespian Stage to go with our Dark Depths. Urza's Cave can also tutor up whatever land we want, so often finding the Strip Mine. And then Yavimaya can turn all our lands into forests. Very helpful with a card like Dark Depths, which doesn't naturally tap for mana. So then with Yavimaya it can still tap for a green. Yavimaya also has a cute synergy with the new Capenna fetch lands, which will enter untapped, so you can tap them for a green before they get sacrificed, and then still get a land afterwards, so that can potentially give you an extra mana as well. So Yavimaya is certainly worth including as well. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump in some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing Calix, so green-white enchantments. What do we think of our hand? Archer's Charm could be useful at exiling enchantments. It's not the most explosive hand necessarily. I guess with Bill we can put a counter on Baloth, and then Fanatics makes 4. I do have a fetch land, of course no Strip Mine, but I can also use Charm to tutor it up. So I think we try it. And then, yeah, there's no tap land I'm getting with the fetch lane, so I could wait. Opponent's got the Grazer. Still gonna play Fanatic, and then next turn maybe Bill into a fetch. Can also just make Bill a 4/4. And there's Calix. Is also an enchantment itself, so could also hit it with a charm. So can I go Bill, fetch lands, and then I'll still have charm available? Just do this now. Could even now use the Chrome Mox. Get Snow Lane to go with a regular forest for Field of the Dead. And yeah, Chrome Mox. Pitch Baloth could be fine. Don't envision needing the Baloth. So I guess we'll just pass here, as opposed to just play Mole Man and Charm now, which is also a possibility. But yeah, maybe I'll wanna deal with Calix if they have some scary enchantments. Now they do actually have a land with hexproof, which is scary. And now a Chains of Custody. When it enters, exile a non-land permanent. Yeah, probably wanna Charm in response. And hope this works. It does. So we got the 2-for-1. But now no Strip Mine, which is a drawback. Opponent's gonna curse, but I can easily play the Mole Man. Okay, so looking for more ways to play extra lands. Scute Swarm's not bad either. So I can play Mole Man, still play Scute Swarm, and then replay the fetch. So we're gonna run away with the game pretty quickly here. Still not making copies of Scute Swarm, but we're getting close. And then +1 counter can maybe diversify a little bit. And Bill's already big enough to attack past the Grazer. And pass a turn. Can also Earthbend with a fetch land and set up some synergies that way. Calix is back, but opponent's fully tapped out. So I get to fetch. Start growing the tokens here so they can maybe mill more lands into the graveyard. Cub is not bad either. So let's see. Gonna go full control. Cub says if it's the second time this ability resolved, double the number of counters. So yeah, we just wait on fetching. And then I guess I could make a huge Bristly Bill, or we can again diversify a little bit. And I can also activate Bill to double the number of counters. So yeah, we should be in great shape. I will mill. Find a Nature's Rhythm, which I can still maybe use. So can I deal lethal if I fetch? First resolve Bill, 3 counters, then Cub up to 6, and then double, so 12 plus 2 is 14 damage, plus another 5 is 19. Yeah, this should be lethal if I stack my triggers correctly. So we want Bill to resolve before Cub. And then activate Bill to double the counters. And there we go. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Yuriko, one of the top 3 competitive Brawl commanders at the moment. We do have some decent tools with Grazer helping us block, and then a Veil of Summer to stop a counter spell. So I'll give it a shot. And they don't seem to have any creature here early on. But maybe a free counter spell like Daze. Grazer resolves. So, and next turn we can try something like Loot. Strix is a good one. Death Toucher can attack past the Grazer. And Ride's also reasonable. I do not have another land in hand, so wouldn't be able to really take full advantage of the extra land drop. Get a Snow land. Could also play Safekeeper, keep up Veil, but that feels kind of weak. Debating whether or not Mole Man is warranted versus Dryad. They could have a free counterspell still. Yeah, it's a close call. I think I will Dryad. Because if we play Mole Man, they could also have like a Snuff Out and destroy Mole Man before I get any value. If they have a Daze, I have a Loot to fill a similar role. And yeah, they actually seem to have the Daze here, so I'm glad I played it this way. Opponent can now ninjutsu Yuriko and get that going. But next turn the Grazer can maybe block. And in the meantime, hopefully go Mole Man, and then keep up Veil of Summer afterwards, after replaying the fetch. Did it pick up a mana drain? And I'm just gonna fetch now. Get another Snow Lance. Opponent actually had Snuff Out. Yeah, I guess I could have waited to keep up Veil of Summer if they went for Snuff Out first. But I also wanted to maybe play Safekeeper. So yeah, they had 2 free spells already, Daze and Snuff Out. But I can maybe stop a mana drain with a Veil of Summer, so there's that. They do also have a way to make unblockable, so they can keep triggering their commander. So yeah, pretty much the ideal start for Yuriko. Let's see what we can come up with. Dig Through Time for 8 damage is one of their best hits. And our opponent's gonna pass with mana drain up. Okay, so this seems like a Veil of Summer kind of turn. Now, despite the Veil, they will still get the mana from mana drain. So that'll still happen. So I may want to start with the Rumble over something more expensive. And then Exploration seems decent. So I could try Exploration with Veil of Summer backup, or go for Loot anyway with Veil of Summer. But yeah, I can't play lands out of the graveyard at the moment, so it's not like Loot is much better than an Exploration right now. Alright, so then next turn we can try Mole Man with Veil of Summer backup. Opponent did end up wasting their 2 mana. But they already have their win condition in play. Finds a drown, more removal. And the library, which they can also activate. They're gonna do so right away. Alright, let's try Mole Man. That works. Play an extra land from Exploration, make some more tokens, and start getting a bit more aggressive. We are down to 7, so it's not like I can fetch forever here. They hit a land, so no damage. A library draws. And let's fetch end of turn. Get some more tokens. Find Archer's Charm, alright, that's removal. Of course, our opponent can just keep up their counter spells to protect Yuriko. Could also hit Aqueous Form to remove the enchantment itself, but that can also be countered, of course. So, decisions. Could start with the Ascension, maybe after playing a fetch land out. Because I do also need to grow my creature before the charm can be effective. Opponent does attempt the mana drain. Okay, I'm gonna let that go. In which case we try loot. Play a couple more fetches. Attack. And there's Field of the Dead. Alright, let's pass. Hope they tap out. They are going for a dig through time. So then I wouldn't be able to hit Yuriko because we're going to be a power short. But I can try and get rid of the enchantment here while the coast is clear. Okay, and then hope they don't find a replacement. Maybe should have let Dig Through Time resolve first, but then they could also find a free counterspell like Force of Will or Force of Negation. There's not too many variants of Aqueous Form. And Blast Zone also could have been an answer to the 1 mana enchantment. Opponent gets their mana drain mana and replays the Strix. But yeah, if they don't have an answer to all these tokens, they still die. Hope of Girapur is fine. Yuriko attacks. Will block. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome. So, yeah, despite all the free interaction early on, we still managed to take over. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Sythis. So another enchantment deck. We actually have Stage plus Dark Depths in our opener with a Yavimaya. So this is pretty much the perfect 3 lands to have. Now, will it be good enough? Because our opponent is at 25, so we need more than 1 attack from Martlage. Plus our opponent might gain some life. So, turn 1 Chromox, does that do anything for me? Not really. Just play Yavimaya and pass. Opponent's got Kami of Transience. So now I could consider either Mole Man or Loot. If I pitch Loot, I can still Intervention to get Strip Mine, of course. Which could be neat, although that's also better with a Loot available. So I feel like I keep Loot, and then just play Loot. And then I could already Dark Depths, can keep it a surprise for next turn, I suppose. May regret it if I also draw Strip Mine, but we'll see. So there's Sythis. And our opponent's gonna station Adagia. And Birds to draw. So Stage is 2 and tap. So then I can still play the Birds. Play Mole Man. Yeah, I guess I still can. So that may be better. Make some tokens. And may as well attack for 1. So I can make a 20/20 at instant speed here. Opponent's gonna shut down Mole Man for good. They've got a Field of Ruin. So they have instant speed removal for my 20/20. They can maybe take over. And either way, they're not dead in 1 attack. Opponent's gonna station, so they're not gonna get ambushed by Merit Lege. Alright, so activate Thespian's stage. Select Dark Depths, and then I want to choose the one that does not have any counters on it, which will then get sacrificed. And find a Nature's Rhythm, so that could still get like an Ice Still Explorer. So yeah, Rhythm for 4 would be the plan, which I can't quite do here. Yeah, let's maybe start by attacking, see what happens. Boseiju. Alright, looks like our opponent's dead after all. I guess we had Xaxes. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Domri, so a red-green Stompy deck. It's gonna be a tough matchup since they can generate mana with their commander, which they can likely play on turn 2. That being said, I've got an Exploration. Could get even better if I draw an untapped green source, so I can go Exploration plus Elves. And then Expedition map can get Strip Mine, Nissa can generate more mana. But expecting some sort of mana elf or a Chrome Mox. So turn 2 Domri will be happening. Opponent keeping up mana for now. So let's go Exploration. Play the Overlook. And get a snow-covered forest, so we have 2 different lanes for Field of the Dead. And there's Domri. So can make mana, can fight creatures. Explore the draw. So this turn is not great, since Field does enter tapped. Can just play the Elves plus map. Play a tap land. Or I could explore, but that seems weaker. Possible they can destroy the map before I get to activate it, but still want to be efficient. So they know that they're potentially about to get Strip Mine locked. So they want to get their mana going, and an Enduring Vitality helps with that. Found Boseiju. So how does my sequencing look like? I could go Nissa, play Boseiju, get a Strip Mine, activate a Strip Mine. Could also just get the Mole Man going, and then replay the Overlook and take it from there. Yeah, that seems like a fine starting point. Possible they have a Lightning Bolt anyway. Yeah, so we're only gonna get 1 mana from Nissa. Sure. But now the Mole Man can survive. Still have an extra lane from Exploration. And we'll get some tokens. So then next turn, we're in prime position to start strip mining. Still want to collect some differently named lanes for Field of the Dead. Opponent will fight the Mole Man. At 5 mana, it's still realistic to replay. And a Great Henge isn't bad. Okay, find a Horn of Greed. Can be a double-edged sword, but usually we're the one benefiting from it the most. So, probably want to finish off Domri right now. And then I can see what we mill and take it from there. Small chance they can flash in some green creature here. But I hope not. Do want to mill in the hopes of finding more lanes. Damage happens. So then Titania get back a fetch lane, seems decent. immediately sacrifice to make a token. And then, I swear, I'm gonna strip mine them next turn. And Domri is back, could still fight Titania. But that's a lot of resources they're using up. And this is fighting a losing battle. They do now, of course, still have the henge, so that's keeping them in the game. Safekeeper would have been awesome with Titania. But let's see here. So I can first attack Domri. Just send the 1/1 tokens. Mill and Ice still would have been a great draw. And a Crater Hoof. So I haven't milled many lands so far.
We will rise again.
So then if I go for Mole Man, I can still activate Expedition Map to get our Strip Mine. And then activate it a few times. Also possible I should have taken the trade of Elemental for Llanowar Elves just to deny an extra mana. Okay. So they're gonna struggle to redeploy Domri anytime soon. And now we can maybe go off with Horn of Greed as well. Fabled Passage is protected from Strip Mine in a way. So yeah, let's go Horn of Greed, tapping Field of the Dead. Play Strip Mine. And then I probably want to attack first to see what we mill before deciding how to proceed. Alright, our opponent might have given up. And Dr. Doom does as he pleases. And it was just too much for our opponent to handle here. But yeah, I could even strip mine 3 times after casting the Explore. So we could get through Fabled Passage, whatever they search up, and then still hit Compound. And then we're not too far from starting to make zombies with Field of the Dead. Alright, opponent times out. Play Strip Mine, draw a card. So now that they timed out, I could actually hit the Fabled Passage with Strip Mine without any issues, I think. Yep. Yeah, let's start by attacking. The elves may want to tap for mana. I'll replay Strip Mine. Yavimaya is a differently named land. Again, still Once Upon a Time. Find Dark Depths, maybe. Play Dark Depths. And then I guess we'll Strip Mine once again. Okay. And then Crop Rotation can get our Thespian's Stage to combo with Dark Depths to make Marital Age. So we've got that angle as well. Yeah, not bad. Opponent had a fine start, bit of interaction. Some mana sources that weren't lands. But yeah. The exploration was great. Got some value off Nissa and Moleman. And now Horn of Greed can pretty quickly take over. We're about to make both zombie tokens and 2020 flying tokens. So we're attacking from a bunch of different angles. Could also crop rotate for something like a blast zone for more interaction. And of course we could always mill more utility lands. And there we have it, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Namor. So mono blue Merfolk, counterspells are certainly a concern. Could maybe Green Suns for the Shepherd to make my green creatures uncounterable, but that's having to wait until turn 2, which they can potentially counter. I think this is still maybe good enough. Good mulligan for Baloth, Shepherd, or Cavern of Souls. Ancient Tomb's interesting. Yeah, if opponent plays a turn 2 Spreading Seas, I get punished for playing the Forest on turn 1 here. So, yeah, maybe it's just Ancient Tomb pass. Opponent's gonna peek, so they know what we're working with. And not surprised to see them pass a turn. Lotus Cobra might be a fine starting point if we don't want to commit to the Green Suns right away. That resolved instantly. Opponent maybe tapping out for Namor. If I draw a fetch lane, I could actually cast a Primeval Titan. Alright, there's Namor. Still have to watch out for free counter spells. Force of Will is illegal in this format. And Force of Negation also comes to mind. So, since I cannot cast the Titan just yet, I guess I'm not hating Green Suns for Shepherd. Hope they don't have Force of Negation. Could also go Horn of Greed into a land and then still Green Suns. That's maybe better. They don't seem to have a Force of Negation. Find a Rumble. Yeah, let's get Shepherd. Because I think if we can resolve Titan next turn, we're in great shape. Opponent gets to draw. And Narset's gonna prevent us from drawing further, so now Horn of Greed is only helping the opponents. And the Tail's End. Alright, hopefully this Titan plan works out. Also have to be careful not dealing myself too much damage with Ancient Tomb, since the damage is adding up and Namor hits pretty hard. But that's an uncounterable Titan, which can now also get a Cavern of Souls to make Mole Man uncounterable. Let's see. Or do they have a way to stifle the trigger? The landfall from Titan can also maybe trigger the Cobra. Opponent's gonna actually slip out the Cobra, so I can't make mana with landfall. So then I'm less concerned about getting fetch lanes. Blast Zone on 3 could be decent. Could think about Field of the Dead. Could get Dark Depths plus Thespian Stage, which is a decent plan to stop a flyer. Strip Mine is also a consideration. Yeah, the field plan might be a little slow to keep up with the 1/1 tokens. So I guess I prefer the Dark Depths plan. Yeah, let's get Dark Depths plus Thespian's Stage. No attacks. Now Tail's End can also counter the activated ability or triggered ability of Dark Depths Stage. We'll just have to try and overpower them. Piracy to draw more cards. Titan wants to attack Narset before we play more lands out. So decisions. Namor stayed back, which is promising. Can see if we get to trade for Primeval Titan. Could also play the Cub first to pump it up some more, but then if they just bounce the Titan, that would be a little bit unfortunate. Yeah, let's start by attacking. See if they want to counter the trigger, or if they have a bounce spell. Maybe one of the Merfolk that can tap it down. Alright, just an Otawara to bounce it. In which case I'm not attacking. And then, yeah, I guess replaying Titan is still reasonable. Give up on the Dark Depths for now. Shepherd makes all green spells uncounterable, including maybe some of my removal spells. Yeah, I guess let's go with Titan again. See if they want to Tails End the trigger. They do. Play a land, still trigger Cobra. And then do we like Rumble? I think so. Finding probably just a forest here. Okay. Pass a turn. We'll see if Namor gets more aggressive. Yeah, Horn of Greed versus Narset hasn't been a great combination. Opponent pitching Flusterstorm. And now Piracy. Could see a big attack. And just Namor. Alright, I mean, we do have an uncounterable Archruit's Charm to try and stop it. Opponent now consulting. So the tokens are adding up. Take my turn. And Green Suns is back. What do I want a Green Suns for? Don't have any lands in graveyard for potential Lumra. Let's see. I think we go Cub first. Can play Mole Man. And then maybe use the floating mana from landfall from Cobra and Titan to cast the Archruit's Charm at instant speed. Force of Will just to make 2 tokens here. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to Craterhoof for lethal. Yeah, I do have to be mindful of my life total, but I could also try and keep the Dark Depths stage combo alive. So how about I attack? Just go after Narset. And then can get life gain fetch lands, or I can get Field of the Dead going. Or a combination of those. And then see if we can grow the Titan. I mean, I doubt our opponent's blocking at this point. So I can maybe spread things out a bit. We're also making tokens with the Mole Man. We're making zombies now. So we should be able to keep up. And then with this floating green mana, we can still Charm. And then, yeah, I guess we use the Titan to fight. Since nothing else is quite big enough. I guess a Cobra could still work. Sure. So deal with Namor. Opponent's got a Spell Pierce, which is not going to work here. No need to pay, since it's uncounterable. Namor down. Titan finally deals with Narset, presumably. And then my Horn of Greed can finally draw a card again, and that's really all that matters. And let's see, I guess fetch lands a little bit better here. Triggers Mole Man and Field of the Dead. And then we can use Dark Depths. Could still die to something like a River's Rebuke. Otherwise, I like my chances. Okay, I guess Safekeeper can still be deployed. But I have to use the mana now if I want to use Thespian Stage on Dark Depths. To be honest, stage on Field of the Dead also would have been pretty effective. So we've got a flying 2020. Safekeeper can keep everyone safe. But yeah, River's Rebuke or Cyclonic Rift with Kicker are the cards that can still beat me. And our opponent scoops it up, awesome. So yeah, Allosaurus Shepherd cannot be underestimated against these mono blue decks. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Matoya, mono blue Scry. Can expect lots of counter spells, so Shepherd's not bad. Problem is, Dark Depths is not a land that makes mana, so this is basically a one-lander. And yeah, one-lander, despite the Shepherd, is probably not going to be good enough. This is better. And we still have a Baloth to make stuff uncounterable. Only applies to creature spells. But yeah, this hand seems fine. I don't think we need Endurance. And then start with Snow-Covered Forest is fine. They could still have all sorts of auras to shut down my creature's abilities, which is a way around the uncounterable effect. Opponent with a tap land. In which case, I actually might prefer Sylvan Library here. Get that going, and then next turn, when they might be keeping up a counterspell for my commander, I can hit them with a Baloth. Since Lotus Field does enter tapped, so I'm not guaranteed to be able to cast my commander yet. Opponent ramping with a Cold Steel Heart. And against a blue deck, we can definitely afford to take some damage. Yeah, I could just pay 8. I could put a 1 card back, especially if I plan to shuffle, but now let's pay 8. And then, do we still like the Baloth? Can set up the Ice Still next turn. Although actually fields will enter tapped, so I need to find another untapped land first. And then the goal is to get my Strip Mine as quickly as possible, which I can find with either Map or Sylvan Scrying. In fact, I could Sylvan Scrying now, get my Strip Mine and use it. But then I'm also not going to be able to play the Explorer next turn. So I think it's going to be Baloth, play Lotus Fields. And then next turn I get to dig with Sylvan Library for an untapped land, hopefully. Play an uncounterable Ice Still. Get ahead of mana, and then the turn after we can worry about Strip Mine. Okay, opponent's got the Princess. And they get to return the Command's Beacon. Okay, Crop Rotation, that's a way to find a Strip Mine. Found the untapped land. So probably ditch the Explore now. Pay 4 life to keep the Crop Rotation. Play uncounterable Ice Still. Play a land. Sack it to Crop Rotation. And then Strip Mining an Archway is especially painful, since that's worth 2 lands. So that'll set them back a bit. Not interested in trading. And yeah, opponent's just gonna scoop it up here. Ice Still plus Strip Mine is pretty difficult to recover from. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Liliana of the Veil, mono black, discard. So in theory, our commander lines up quite favorably, since it helps us go wide with a bunch of tokens, which plays around the -2, and we can mostly play out of our graveyard. In practice, we'll have to wait and see how things line up. This hand's not perfect. Cannot play Mystic on turn 1. I can Explore on turn 2, but I only have 2 lands to start out, no fetch land. Although Charm and Expedition Map can tutor up whatever land I want. This hand is a bit slow, and the last thing I want to be against the discard deck is slow, since I want to be able to mostly empty my hand. So I'll take a mulligan. This seems better. And then definitely want Halfling into Ascension. Endurance is not essential Beastmaster Ascension could be fun if we get it going, so I'll try it this way. And then even if they answer the Halfling, I still have Ancient Tomb for Ascension. Elvish Reclaimer can also tutor up something like a Strip Mine. Still don't have a fetch land to go with a Mole Man. Opponent's gonna hit us with a Grave Expectations. Okay. Just gotta hope they didn't hit my Strip Mine here. Ooh, Voidwalker, that's a problem. That's gonna stop all our graveyard synergies. And I do not really have an answer. Yeah, that just shuts down my commander. So not sure how I'm gonna deal with this. I guess I still play the Mole Man into Reclaimer. Yeah, I can't think of many more annoying cards to deal with. Opponent found our bill, and they have their own Strip Mine. Okay. So Voidwalker is going to be a pretty fast clock. And we just need to try and go wide and try and keep up that way. Provisioner could help. So yeah, I cannot even cast my Ascension now. Can still Sylvan Scrying, but at this point a fetch land doesn't really matter anymore. Reclaimer's never gonna get enough lands to get +2/+2, since they're all gonna get exiled. So I guess we'll just Sylvan Scrying and get a land that could be useful, which is... could still be a fetch, could still be Strip Mine. You have a Maya. Doesn't seem all that important. Because I'm gonna play the Archway this turn. Although that means that I won't actually be able to play Provisioner next turn. So this is pretty awkward. Yeah, I guess a fetch line still makes sense. Maybe just play this now, make some tokens. What's happening to the Overlook? Alright, there we go. That was strange. And then next turn maybe Provisioner into a fetch land, or we can get the Ascension going. Yeah, I'll be honest, I wasn't really expecting Graveyard Hate, but Voidwalker's just good in a discard deck, since you can maybe play with cards that the opponent will discard. And Liliana can plus.
I'm tired of your secrets.
Yeah, maybe Ascension's still my best hope here. So then I think we go Earthbender Ascension into Archway, and then a turn after Beastmaster should be online. So I don't think I need Provisioner. Eternal Witness is pretty useless. I can keep it in hand to protect the Beastmaster Ascension, of course. And then for now, no attacks. So I have enough creatures to enable the Ascension in a single attack. Just gotta dodge a targeted discard spell now. Voidwalker hits for 5. And a Mind Spike, no. There goes my Ascension. Yeah, possible I should have played it last turn, but then I may not have been able to set up the +5/+5 in one go. Since we need 7 counters. Not sure what I can still draw to get out of it. Maybe a Primeval Titan. And Archenemy Charm as well. Back to the command zone. A Rumble reveals the top cards, so I can still at least put them in hand. Is that better than replaying the Mole Man? I guess it is. Find Nissa. Can play her. And then I'll find an extra Alpha Elemental. Sack the Earthbended lands. Ascension's online. And Endurance. Reclaimer can get a fetch that sacrifices itself and gains a life. Could have also been going for Dark Depths plus Thespian Stage, but it will enter tapped. I guess if I get Thespian Stage now, I can still set up Dark Depths next turn. Although that might be too slow. It's worth a shot. And then I can still cast the Endurance now. Hit the opponent's graveyard. And attack. Can go after a Liliana if we want to prevent an ultimate somehow. I don't think they'll be proliferating. So I guess going face is okay. Alright, so Voidwalker could be lethal into attacks. Mindstone is not a land.
You won't be outsmarting me.
Alright, so if they still have a land next turn, that could be bad, although I can use a Reclaimer at instant speed to gain 1 life as well. Disruptor Flute can stop my opponent from activating Liliana, so I can go face. Okay, so what's the plan? Set up a pretty big attack. Do want to make sure I leave a blocker back for Bill. So maybe 1 token. I mean, the game's going to be decided by Merit presumably, but if I need to find a life gain land instead, then I guess the damage does matter. So, yeah, let's get more aggressive. Can always jump with the Halfling. Probably shouldn't be milling in case I mill Dark Depths. Just giving Voidwalker more fuel. Because I guess I haven't been checking what the Voidwalker has milled. So trade happens. So now we're less concerned about Voidwalker killing me. Play the flute, name Liliana. And then pass a turn. So then I should have just enough to still get Dark Depths and then activate Thespian Stage. Currency Converter's fine. Can't activate Liliana. So opponent's gonna loot away their last card. They need a very specific answer to deal with an indestructible 2020. So Fatal Push is not gonna do it, and yeah, opponent's also maybe just dying on the board. But yeah, Reclaimer gets Dark Depths, activate Thespian Stage, keep the Dark Depths without any counters, and then that will get sacrificed to make Merit, and yeah, that should be enough to cross the finish line. So yeah, despite early Voidwalker shutting down our primary game plan, plus the timely Mind Spike to take the Beastmaster Ascension, which otherwise could have overrun all our tokens for the win, we still managed to get there. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Tasigur, so a Sultai kind of mid-range deck that's going to be delving and presumably interacting quite a bit. Hence, okay, still need a fetch land ideally. But we've got some landfall creatures. The case, if we can get it down, can provide more value. And a turn 1 birds is a good start. Probably want to wait on Skewed Swarm until we can make some copies, so we don't just lose it to removal. Alright, now 6 is a decent pickup. Can start milling stuff and provide value. And then next turn Mole Man's going to be better when I can replay a land from my graveyard, potentially. Primeval Titan's nice too. Okay. Attack with 6. Opponent might have a counterspell up here. Did mill Thespian Stage. And Curator could be effective too in the matchup, exiling the opponent's graveyard so they cannot delve Tasigur. But let's see. So opponent is keeping up 2 mana. Don't have incredibly high hopes for the Mole Man. Could try the Case. Or I can even retrace the Curator, try and cast that instead. But I think I just want to keep hitting my land drops. So how about we bait with like a Skewed Swarm? Or at that point I can go for Mole Man. Sure, just go Mole Man. Play Forest, play Chocobo. If they want to counter this, that's fine. Alright, opponent's gonna let it go. Could also retrace Expedition Map to get either Cavern of Souls or Strip Mine. But let's just keep up the pressure. I do get punished by Toxic Deluge here. The 3 mana sweeper. But then we get to untap, resolve the Case, which is still decent. And yeah, they had the Deluge. So back to the command zone. Hope to find more lands for the Case. Myco Spawn's not bad either. So yeah, the Case to be solved needs 7 or more lands, so we're still pretty far from that. So I guess Myco Spawn it is for now. Get Cavern of Souls over Strip Mine. So I can make sure I can actually resolve the Mole Man. Although, let's see. I guess there's no lands in the graveyard yet. So could also argue for a fetch land instead. Can make it Fabled Passage as a painless one, or even one that gains life, like the New Capenna ones. Yeah, maybe that's preferable. Could have also gotten Dark Depths to combo with Stage, but this Tasigur deck is likely to have answers to it. So I don't want to put all my eggs in that basket. Of course, if Titan resolves, we can still search up the combo. Could have also gotten Ancient Tomb or Castle Garenbrig as ways to ramp out the Titan. Heuristic Study is fine. And we even drew the castle. Okay, so unless they have a Force of Will, Titan resolves. And maybe I don't pay the 1 to play around Days. Gonna be real sad if they have Force of Will. I guess never mind, they don't have an island in place, so I should pay the 1. Titan resolves. Alright, so now we're in business. So I think now I like Dark Depths plus Cavern of Souls. How are we on Field of the Dead? That's also quite tempting here. Can already enable Field. So maybe Field plus Dark Depths. So we get to make our zombies. And yeah, for a control deck, Field of the Dead is a nightmare. Yeah, this deck has a lot of unique lanes, so whenever you get to tutor for one, there's just a ton of different branching pathways. Step 1, attack with Titan, see if they let us. Opponent's got an opposition agent, nice. So that's gonna prevent us from searching going forward. So that was the ideal answer. So I guess we decline. And then, yeah, I mean, we're still hitting them for a bunch. Can still Dark Depths plus stage them. Could also take a Blast Zone to 3 to deal with Agent and Rhystic Study. Fatal Push Mycospawn, they did enable Revolts. Okay. So our opponent's gonna take 10. Do I have a land in graveyard? I do, but it's a fetch land, so that's not great with opposition agent. So instead, if I play the case, if I don't pay for Rhystic Study, I can still use Stage. So I guess that's fine. So the case will be solved. So we can start playing lands off the top. Our opponent actually had the Force of Negation here. Alright, I'll still pass a turn, I think. Unless we just want to go Cub plus Swarm. But that's just asking for another sweeper. Now they need instant speed removal for the 2020. Uro is fine. So it's got to be something like a bounce spell, since Merilage is indestructible. Opponent's down to 1 card in hand, and they're also just dying to my attack here. So might see Tasigur make an appearance. Yeah, Agent. Very nice answer to green decks in general that rely on fetch lands. So that's where having a little bit of removal, like the Archdruid's Charm, can still prove to be very useful at answering the agent. Also have Blast Zone, or we can just remove our opponents with a 2020. So they seem dead, as long as I don't mess this up, because we do have to click on the correct land here. Keep the one without any counters on it. And yeah, opponent's gonna scoop it up here. Awesome. So yeah, we faced a nice variety of decks here in the Competitive Brawl queue. So I'm surprised so far that there's not more of the tier 1 decks, like the various ninjutsu decks with Yuriko. The mono blue Katara deck can also be pretty obnoxious to play against, and there's a few more along those lines. So we'll have to wait and see if the meta stays pretty fun and interesting like it is right now, or if eventually people are going to converge towards those more competitive decks. But of course, cards like the Shepherd to make stuff uncounterable are very effective too at stopping some of those free counter spells out of the various blue decks. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.